Chase right now is unconscious, but his family is hoping that he will recover. Now, the hit-and-run driver who struck him is still out there tonight. In light of that, Chase's father told us over the phone that he is ready to make a rather unusual proposal because, in his view, this was an accident before it became a crime. The videos and 911 audio recordings paint a picture of total chaos on a busy Mount Greenwood street. It happened during a funeral procession that led to an altercation that ended with a man shot dead in the street. And of course, the former John Hancock is one of the city's iconic skyscrapers, known for those diagonal beams that you're looking at right now. And that, of course, and here we go, it looks like a lot more ice is about to fall. I wanted to be quiet so you get a sense of the racket and the real danger that this presents. I mean, that could be incredibly hazardous, possibly lethal if anyone was walking underneath it. So obviously the police made an excellent decision to cordon off this entire area. And there are a few people who get too close because they're curious. And the bottom line is it's way too dangerous to be at the foot of some of these buildings right now. I'm Mike Puccinelli, coming to you from Greenwood Avenue in the village of Ford Heights. Behind me you can see a car that has stalled out here right in the middle of the road. This is one of many roads across this village that right now is completely inundated with water, made entirely impassable. That's the reason why they have had to shut 4 schools in Ford Heights today, because so many children are essentially trapped in their homes, which have kind of become islands amidst all the water. And that person has no affiliation with the University of Illinois at Chicago. That as students mourn a young woman known for her smile and sense of humor. Hi, yeah, this is the Central Continental Bakery. Lori over there is working on some Boston creams right now. They've got this down to a science. As we pan to the right over here, you can see the strawberries. And then right here, my personal favorite in the foreground, this is the Elvis, of course. It's got a lot of calories, some banana in it, and probably a little butter, knowing that it's an homage to the king. This right here is the impresario of this place. We're talking about Bobby Cerniak. 38 years, family-owned business, and at this point, you're just running on fumes, right?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Normally, there's about a 4 or 5 foot drop on the other side of this seawall. Now, though, it's almost like I can walk on water. Essentially, Erica, information is gathered and compiled into a database, but when folks call animal care and control, generally, in most cases, nothing much happens, and that's because officials say their hands are essentially tied by state law. That's right, Jim, but earlier today, the state's attorney's office did indeed drop those charges, that coming at the request of interim police superintendent Charlie Beck, who said he just thought it would be insensitive at this time to press forward with those charges amid a significant level of concern surrounding the arrest and shooting. A Chicago police officer struggling with Ariel Roman yells for him to stop resisting.
Stop! Stop resisting!
It's something he screams more than 10 times, but all the while, the struggle continues for more than 4 minutes. That as CTA passengers walk by and up an escalator, apparently with little interest. In other angles, you can hear the taser deployed seemingly with little effect. Then Roman is pepper sprayed right in his face, and it still fails to stop him from struggling. That's when the male officer who has been wrestling with Roman can be heard urging his female partner to shoot. Seconds later, she draws her weapon, and when Roman walks away from the wall while rubbing his face, a first shot rings out. Then both officers pursue him up the escalator stairs when another shot is heard. Now, the struggle broke out Friday after officers attempted to detain Roman for walking between cars while the train was moving. Roman is still recovering in the hospital this evening. As for the officers, they are both on desk duty pending the outcome of this investigation. Reporting live outside police headquarters, Mike Puccinelli, CBS 2 News. Jim. Naples is a village of some 620 people. Until Tuesday, this village had never been hit by a tornado. Now, at least 1/5 of this village's homes and businesses are either damaged or destroyed, like some of the homes you're looking at right now. But no one was killed. That's not to say, though, that there weren't some extremely close calls. Just east of where the Illinois River bends at Buffalo Rock, the EF3 tornado began ripping the tops off trees. Then across the river in Naples, it began ripping homes apart.
It's surreal to see that I actually lived through that.
Surreal because Nancy Warner was in her home of 11 years when the twister lifted it off its foundation while she was hunkered down in the closet. Did you realize you were literally being picked up and tossed with the house?
Yes, I could feel it. I could feel it shaking and moving.
Warner could also hear her house being torn to pieces. It was the scariest 2 minutes of her life.
It was very scary. I didn't know if I'd come out or not.
Today, she was back for the first time with her father, daughter, and granddaughter, who needed to see the destruction firsthand.
I'm speechless. I can't believe that she walked out of here unharmed.
When the storm twisted out of the village, Warner stumbled out of her home into a surreal scene. You just saw a wasteland around you.
Yes, it was just crazy. Just like somebody came through with a bomb and just set it all off and just left a mess.
Warner only suffered a small scratch on her shin. This 49-year-old grandmother believes she knows why.
My mom passed away a couple years ago, and my best friend passed away about 4 years ago, so they were watching over me very much.
I just get tears in my eyes because she was in that closet and she walked out unharmed. It's unbelievable. I keep saying my grandma must have been with her because there's no other reason that she should have made it out of there.
Back live now, you can see one of the homeowners here in her yard, gingerly walking amongst the debris, trying to see what she can salvage. This, the story that is being repeated all over this charming river village. Now, the Red Cross is also out here right now assessing the damage. They also have mental health counselors on hand to help people cope with the sudden and irrevocable loss that is being suffered here by so many folks. Also, Ameren Power on hand right now, working to get the power reestablished. Just out of camera view right now, they're working on a light pole. That's happening all over. Of course, that's one of the essential things that needs to get done here before this cleanup can really begin in earnest.
If that raft could talk, there's another one there.
Father Roy Snipes is pointing out a deflated raft like this one. It's the boat of choice here along the United States border with Mexico. He sees rafts just about every time he takes his church's boat out on the Rio Grande here in Mission, Texas.
Along with every one of those rafts is a six or seven sweet dreams and maybe 6 or 7 tragedies.
This 73-year-old pastor is showing a group of priests from Chicago conditions along the border where guard towers line the riverbank. Father Don Nevins from St. Agnes of Bohemia in Little Village is among the group from Catholic Extension that made the 1,500-mile trip.
Statue of Liberty says we're welcoming the stranger, and we're hoping for them to have a better life and new opportunities here, and we're saying, no, you can't come. Doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
U.S. Border Patrol numbers show that 200 to 400 people have died each year recently trying to come to America. Many drown in the Rio Grande. Snipe says the people that are dying are would-be neighbors.
To demonize poor people who are struggling and striving to survive and taking great risks so their families can survive, to demonize them is despicable. That I could use some profanity on that.
He also has to keep himself from swearing when he thinks that the bell may have tolled for this modest 120-year-old chapel. It's called La Lomita, and it gave Mission its name. But the United States Border Patrol, which is seemingly constantly on guard outside the church, has filed suit to seize the land surrounding La Lomita. They say they need it to build the border wall. Would they cut off your church?
They would.
So Snipes and the Brownsville Diocese are suing to prevent this sacred space from being sealed off by the border wall.
It will ruin the whole atmosphere, just adulterate the whole atmosphere, obliterate the atmosphere.
Catholic Extension President Jack Wall believes that welcoming atmosphere must be preserved. So after celebrating Mass, he announced the Chicago-based group was making a $10,000 donation.
A check that expresses so much what we believe in what you're doing and continue doing.
So Wall hopes the La Lomita mission of ministering to those less fortunate on the southern border can continue for another 100 years in the town that bears its name. In Mission, Texas, Mike Puccinelli, CBS 2 News. He was horrified by what he saw. He traveled to a province that has seen its population triple as 2 million people have fled there in the hopes of escaping the seemingly relentless bombs. At first glance, you might think you're looking at a couple of Chicago kids. But these boys are in Syria, in the middle of what's been called the world's worst humanitarian crisis.
We're talking about a scale of displacement because of the recent bombing by the Russian and Syrian regime that we have not witnessed.
And that's saying a lot, since 500,000 people have already been killed in the 9-year war being waged against Syrian rebels. These 3 kids died today in a Russian airstrike.
This is too much.
Zahir Salul's eyes are welling with tears.
One more question.
Because this Chicago doctor is just back from his native Syria and can't get his mind off what he witnessed.
And I don't believe that people pay attention to it.
So to try and bring global attention to the suffering of civilians, he traveled into the war zone last month, where he photographed this soccer stadium turned tent city.
The Syrian regime and Russia have been bombing nonstop.
And one day after these photos were taken, the stadium was bombed. 18 people died, including 6 children. So Lul says the Russian-backed Syrian regime is openly ignoring the rules of war.
Hospitals are bombed, schools are bombed, neighborhoods are bombed.
12-year-old Alam is among more than 6 million Syrians now displaced within her country.
There is no school. In my village, I used to play with my friends at school. My friends were killed in an airstrike. I survived and came here.
This camp and others like it are now home to 1 million people trying to survive amid the mud. Here, just getting into a tent can be a challenge. Riding a dirt bike is even harder. And collecting and chopping sticks to stave off freezing temperatures can be a matter of life and death.
The children are agonized from the cold.
Still, what Salul remembers as he treats patients 6,000 miles away in Chicago isn't the misery of the camp, but the resourcefulness of the young caregivers forced to grow up too soon, and the artistry of children who use mud to paint the beauty in their hearts. Children who, despite deplorable conditions, joined with adults in singing the song of survival and resilience. Now, 12 million Syrians have been displaced since the war began. 6 million are in the country. 6 million more are seeking refuge outside Syria. Salul brought $200,000 raised by Met Global to help the displaced. But he says although the money is important, it's really the attention of the world that is needed most. In the newsroom, Mike Puccinelli, CBS 2 News. Jim.